She invited me to her wedding just to humiliate me. Then my wedding card wiped the smirk off her face. I, 28F, and Priya were friends for over a decade. Emphasis on the quotes. She never missed a chance to remind me I wasn't successful enough, that my job was cute but basic, and that my boyfriend, now fiancé, Arjun, was sweet but going nowhere. So when she got engaged to a guy from a wealthy family, she went full main character mode. Bridal shoots, designer lehengas, a wedding budget that could fund a small startup, and then the invite hand delivered. Gold foil, a personal note tucked inside. Come see what a real wedding looks like. Dress well, don't embarrass yourself. I almost didn't go, but my mom said something that stuck. Let her have her moment. Karma doesn't need your help. So I went, smiled, complimented everything. Let her parade me around like a trophy of look how far I've come compared to her. Then, 2 weeks later, my own wedding invite went out. See, what Priya never bothered to ask, because she was too busy assuming, was what Arjun actually does. She knew he worked in something with computers. She never asked more. What she didn't know, Arjun had spent 3 years quietly building a startup that had just been acquired in a 7-figure deal. We weren't flashy. We never posted about it. We didn't need to. Our wedding card arrived at her house on thick handmade paper, with a small elegant line at the bottom. Venue, X 5-star resort. Please RSVP by date. Note, this is a closed guest, no +1 event. She showed up at my house the next day, not to congratulate me, to ask, very carefully, very casually, how we could afford that venue. I just smiled and said, guess my basic life worked out okay. Her exact words, verbatim. Wait, you're serious? This is real. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just watched her scroll through the guest list, which included people from her own in-laws circle, and watched her realize she was about to attend my wedding as a guest, not a judge. She still came. Sat quietly. Didn't say a single helpful comment all night. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just showing up as your full self and letting someone else's assumptions collapse under the weight of the truth. Want me to punch this up further, add more twists, more petty details, or turn it into a longer multi-part update-style Reddit thread, like AITA-style follow-ups? I can also format it as a downloadable doc if you want to repost it somewhere. A continuation with everything that happened before, during, and after the wedding, the version I never posted because I was still processing it. Now I'm ready. Let me back up, because people in the comments keep asking, how did you tolerate her for 10 years? Fair question. Let me explain who Priya really was, because it matters for understanding just how satisfying this turned out to be. We met in college. First year, same hostel floor. Back then, she was normal, insecure like all of us, but not cruel. The shift happened slowly, after her family's business took off in her 3rd year. New car, designer bags, a personality transplant to match. By the time we graduated, she had perfected a very specific art form, the backhanded compliment. Things like, your outfit is so brave. I could never pull off something that simple. It's so nice that you're happy with a small circle of friends. I could never live like that. Arjun seems really sweet. Some men are just naturally more low-key ambitious. It's cute. Every single comment landed like a paper cut. Never enough to bleed, obviously, but enough that by the end of a conversation with her, I'd feel small. I kept her around anyway. Partly nostalgia, partly because our families knew each other, partly because, if I'm honest, some small part of me kept hoping she'd go back to being the person I met in first year. She didn't. The engagement announcement. When Priya got engaged to Rohan, whose family owns a chain of hotels, she didn't just post it on Instagram. She staged it. A reveal video with a live band. A hashtag. A microsite, yes, an actual website, with a countdown timer to the wedding. I congratulated her genuinely. I meant it. Whatever her flaws, I didn't wish her unhappiness. But then the comments started. Now that I'm settling into this life, I really think you and Arjun should think about your 5-year plan. Just as a friend. I worry about you guys. Rohan's family has so many connections. I could maybe introduce Arjun to someone if he wants to. Like, actually grow his career. Don't take this the wrong way, but are you guys even planning to get married? Or is it more of an undefined situationship thing? I only ask because I care. We had been engaged for 4 months at that point. She knew. She just liked pretending she didn't, so she could ask the question and watch me squirm. The invitation. The wedding invite arrived exactly as I described in part 1, gold foil, hand-delivered by her cousin, with that folded note tucked inside. But there's a detail I left out because it embarrassed me too much to admit before. I cried a little when I read it. Not sad tears. The kind of tears that come from swallowing anger for a decade. My mother found me sitting on the kitchen floor with the card in my lap. "Beta, why are you sitting on the floor like this?" she said. Not really asking. My mother has never really asked anything in her life. She just states things. I showed her the note. She read it twice. Then she folded it back up, very calmly, and said the thing that changed everything. Let her have her moment. Karma doesn't need your help. It just needs patience. I didn't fully believe her at the time. I believe her now. The wedding. I want to paint the full picture of that wedding, because context matters for what happened after. It was genuinely a spectacular event. 4-day affair. A different designer outfit for every function. A celebrity performer flown in for the Sangeet. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't impressive, because it was. Priya found me within 10 minutes of my arrival. She looked me up and down, not subtly. She wanted me to see her do it, and said, loud enough for the 2 aunties next to her to hear. "Oh my God, you actually came. I wasn't sure you'd want to, be around all this." All this. I said, big stuff. I just didn't want you to feel out of place. I smiled and said nothing. My mother's voice was in my head, patience. For the next 3 days, she paraded me to at least a dozen relatives as my old college friend. She's so sweet, still figuring out her life. Each time I smiled, made small talk, and left the conversation without correcting a single thing she said. The turning point for me internally, not for the story yet, was during the reception, when she cornered me near the dessert table and asked, with this exaggerated concern, "Have you and Arjun set a date yet?" I keep telling Rohan, some couples just take their time. There's no shame in it. "We have," I said. "It's actually pretty soon." Her face flickered, just for half a second, with something like alarm. Then she recovered and said, "Oh, that's so nice. Small function, I'm guessing? Those can be really lovely too, very intimate." Something like that, I said, and walked away before she could see me smile. What she didn't know. Here's the part that made the whole thing work. Priya had built an entire mental picture of Arjun based on almost nothing. She met him twice, both times briefly, both times when he was underdressed and exhausted because he'd been coding through the night. She decided, on that basis, that he was a sweet underachiever, and she never once asked a follow-up question in 3 years. What she didn't ask about, the fact that Arjun had spent those 3 years building a workflow automation platform with 2 co-founders, funded initially out of his own savings and a small angel round. What she didn't ask about, the 16-hour days, the failed first version, the pivot, the second version that actually worked. What she really didn't know, 2 months before her wedding, that platform was acquired. Not a headline-grabbing amount, but 7 figures and structured in a way that meant Arjun and his co-founders were, quite suddenly, very comfortably set for life. We didn't announce it. We didn't post about it. Partly because Arjun is a genuinely private person, and partly, I'll admit, because some small vindictive part of me wanted to see what would happen if people found out the old-fashioned way. The invitation goes out. Our wedding invitations went out 2 weeks after Priya's. Thick handmade cotton paper, minimal gold detailing, understated in a way that Priya would probably have called budget a year earlier, except the venue line at the bottom read like a chef's kiss, a 5-star resort property. The kind that requires a minimum guest count buyout for a private event, with an RSVP deadline and a note that this was a closed, no +1 guest list. I heard through my cousin, who is friends with Priya's sister-in-law, that when Priya received the card, she read it 3 times. Then she called her mother to ask if this was some kind of joke. She showed up at my house the next afternoon, unannounced, holding the card like it might bite her. Is this real? She asked, standing in my doorway. Is what real? This venue. This is the venue you're actually using? Not like a joke or you got a discount code or... It's real. She sat down on my sofa without being asked, still holding the card, staring at it like it had personally offended her. How, she said, not even bothering to frame it as a question anymore. How are you affording this? And this is the moment I'd been waiting 3 days to have, and I didn't even have to plan it. Guess my basic life worked out okay, I said. She looked up at me, and for the first time in a decade, I saw an expression on her face that wasn't performance. It was just confusion. Genuine, unfiltered confusion, like her whole framework of the world had briefly glitched. Wait, she said. You're serious? This is real. I told her simply what had happened with Arjun's company. Not bragging, I actually kept it pretty understated, because honestly, I didn't need to embellish it. The facts did the work themselves. She went quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, and I want to be fair to her here, because this is the one moment I think was almost sincere. Why didn't you ever say anything? You never asked, I said. Not really. You just decided who we were and never checked. The wedding itself, she came to my wedding. She RSVP'd within 4 hours of receiving the card, a personal best for her, historically. She was quiet the entire evening. No backhanded comments. No helpful advice. She complimented the venue once, genuinely, and then mostly kept to herself, sitting with her husband, watching. At one point, near the end of the night, she found me by the exit and said, "This was really beautiful." I mean that. Thank you, I said. I'm sorry, she added, quieter. For a lot of things, I think. I didn't make it a whole moment. I just said, I know, and let it be enough for that night. Where things stand now. We're not close anymore. Not the way we used to pretend to be. But there's no active hostility either. She's a little smaller online now, fewer humble brags, fewer helpful comments about other people's life choices. Whether that's growth or just embarrassment, I genuinely don't know, and honestly, I don't need to know. What I do know is this: my mother was right. Karma really didn't need my help. All it needed was time, and the truth to catch up with the story Priya had already decided to tell about my life. The dessert table smugness, the come see what a real wedding looks like note, the decade of paper-cut comments, none of it needed a comeback line or a dramatic confrontation. It just needed one folded card on thick handmade paper to land in the right hands at the right time. Edit. Since people are asking, yes, Arjun and I are doing great. Yes, the acquisition was real, and no, I won't share the number. No, I don't regret going to her wedding. And yes, my mother has never once said, I told you so, which honestly might be the most impressive part of this whole story.